Welcome to Two Girls, One Podium, the podcast where girl talk meets the finish line.
Join your hosts Millie and Jasmine, two besties with a passion for speed, sports and spilling all the tea. Whether we're breaking down the latest race drama, fangirling over our favourite drivers, or just having a laugh about life behind the scenes, we're bringing you the ultimate mix of motorsport and girl power.
So grab your iced coffee, buckle up and let's hit the track because here it's always full throttle and fabulous. Welcome back to our podcast. This is episode 2 of Two Girls, One Podium. And today we've got Millie back again in her lovely McLaren shirt. Millie, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Jazz. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I've also got my McLaren shirt on, but you can't really tell. It's a bit different.
No, I love it. I love it. It looks great.
Thank you very much.
So Jazz, have you heard the rumours?
Well, do you know what I know?
I think I know what you know. Do you know what I know?
I think I might. Tell us about it.
Well, I've heard a sneaky little rumour go around that Lawson may be kicked out of the Red Bull seat and replaced by Tsunoda as early as next race.
Is anyone surprised? Is anyone shocked? Red Bull do it again.
I mean, it's a bit gossip for you there.
A little bit.
Hot
it's just fresh off the... That's the one I know. Not fresh off the plate. Gotta show my age.
Fresh off the plate's never been a thing, I swear.
It hasn't. That's why I'm showing my age. See now. Yeah, it's interesting, but I don't think it's a surprise. I mean, who could have predicted you have a few bad days in a Red Bull and your seat's immediately up for grabs? So, what are we thinking? Is the seat cursed or...
I mean, the seat is probably cursed, but the Red Bulls aren't doing... Well, they didn't do great this race. That's all I'm going to say. So
they couldn't be further apart on the grid.
Well, yeah, there's that too. There is that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was quite aggressive during the sprint, though. He was quite aggressive. He clipped a couple of them. Yeah, a couple of wheel bangs. I think he almost took Jack Doohan out. Yeah, it was quite intense. I watched that and I was thinking, all I could hear was Liam Lawson. I was like, oh.
We did say he would be a bit scrappy. I mean, we predicted this as his personality type, but how much of that is his personality or how much is that him fighting the Red Bull? That we don't know.
That's what I mean. Like, and you'd be fighting to try and stay in that seat, right? So maybe he just put it all into the sprint and had nothing left for the race. Who knows?
I mean, potentially that sprint, what happened in that sprint didn't even match what happened on race day. And obviously we'll get into the drama of that. But, what's Max finding in that car that the others aren't?
Yeah.
Still the question.
Still the question. I mean, and why aren't Red Bull answering any of the questions?
That is the tea, because they're being quiet.
I would be, if I was Tsunoda, though, I mean, he's obviously working his car quite well at the moment. I'd almost be anxious to them be going into that said cursed seat, knowing that it will be a slightly different setup from what you're currently in, and knowing that the pressure that comes with, like he's maybe there waiting on the sidelines being like, this is my big break, but I don't know, it's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure, and I also think, would you want to give up a V-carb car right now? Obviously, we're going to talk about how the race played out today, but those V-carbs are looking very quick. And if I was Tsunoda, I'm not sure I'd want to give that up. It's you take the risk going into the Red Bull anyway. We all know what that seat comes with. But if your car's already performing, are you really upgrading? I'm not so sure. And, I think there's always going to be rumours as well of maybe Hadjar going in there because he's also another rookie and they clearly are looking to bring a rookie into that space. But after last week and Helmut's not so kind words around his kind of reaction to going out in, the formation lap, I genuinely don't think it's it wouldn't be the right call for Hadjar. I think he's got a lot to bring to racing, and I want to see what he could do in a V-carb because they are looking pretty decent, if I do say so.
Yeah, I think quite a lot of the mid teams are really fighting back this year, and I know we're only on the second race, but my God, you've got a couple of them up there. You've got Williams, you got Haas, you got Cash Visa, what they call now.
I'm just calling it VCARB. I don't even know. Hashtag
Visa Red Bull
ATM.
Racing.
Credit card, check. Hotel, Trivago. I don't know. We're not sponsored. Hashtag not sponsored.
Sponsor us.
Please. Yeah. Yeah, whatever they're called, I'm pretty
impressed
excited.
With, whatever they're called.
I'm pretty impressed with that car that moves. You know, and yeah, I don't think I would want the offer. I wouldn't want the call from Red Bull.
No.
Get Danny back in the car. Sorry, who said that?
I don't know. There's definitely a whisper.
There's definitely something going on. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, going back to the sprint, you know, we had. Sorry, I am looking at my notes on the side here. That is why I keep glancing off. But we did have Lewis win the sprint. That was exciting. I think a lot of the Ferrari fans were gripping their seats. You know, they were excited. And yeah, it went really well in the race.
Let's hold off on that before I break my own heart again twice over, because the sprint, I was like, he's back, he's doing it again. This is the man that I follow. This is the should have been 8-time world champion. You know, I was getting really excited, and then race day comes around and it's very much womp, womp,
now
womp.
hang on, we're only in the second race, so if
he drives for Ferrari, what do you think is going to happen?
I'm just saying, nothing's impossible. If you want it bad enough.
That's true.
He's not the problem. It's not him. It's not been him either time.
No.
So if his team can sort that out, you never know what could happen. Clearly, he's got the ability to do it. Like, I mean, we've seen him do it 7 other times. So,
yeah. He needs to sort that garage out. If I'm honest, I'm hoping that's what he will do. He'll bring some people with him. Obviously, a few Mercedes people have gone to the garage, moved over to Ferrari anyway. But yeah, I'm hoping that he gives them a bit of a shake up, and they've got to be making better decisions. They've got to be checking things twice, thrice, and everything else in between.
Yeah, I mean, for a top tier team, they're not displaying top behaviour. No. And maybe it's teething issues. Don't know, but guess we'll find out as we continue to watch the season.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think as well, you can't just rely on your name, and how much have they gotten away with just because they're Ferrari? Is it good enough? You know, I'd love to see them back on form, but as you said, it's very early days. There's time to fix things out, and you know, maybe we shouldn't be even considering it for this year. We're probably looking at 2026, but then again, all the regulation changes, so who knows? They could be at the back of the pack. Don't wish that, obviously, but we just don't know what 2026 is going to bring.
But isn't that what keeps the sport so exciting? That like you would have thought 2 seasons ago that it was just going to be Max forever, you know, until he retired, but. No, that's not how the sport works. It's forever changing, and I'm really excited for 2026 because that is going to be. I mean, this year's super exciting with all the rookies on the grid, and we'll get to the rookies in a bit. But next year is going to be a good watch.
It's like starting all over again in a way, right? Obviously, they are working on the cars. They might know some information based on the wind tunnel times and things like that. But yeah, it almost resets the pack, and who knows where people are going to end up. But we know Williams have been focusing on 2026 for the last 2 years, so would that be a top 4 team in 2026? I mean, it has potential.
I mean, looking at how they're racing at the moment, it definitely has potential, so they can keep them drivers on top form and the engineers and the team pull through. I can't see why they couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it for a very exciting kind of lead up to that season. But this season there's going to be plenty of drama. I think obviously we're already seeing that. We're on race 2, and I don't think either of these races have gone how I anticipated them. Obviously there was a bit of a lull in today's race, but even still there was strategies that were called that I didn't necessarily agree with. There was drama post race. There's obviously now some rumors going on around some of the teams, and you know, I think that really goes to show that you really can't predict what's going to happen. But we can't ignore the obvious. McLaren won again today, another P1, P2, front row lockout. as a McLaren fan, clearly, because you're wearing your shirt, how are you feeling about that?
I feel great about that. And honestly, like, now, again, I'm just going to reiterate, I am a rookie to the sport before I go into this because I don't know aerodynamics particularly well. But I saw a couple of things online about the mini DRS. Is that what it is? Yeah, the mini DRS.
I'm going to say yeah, but just carry on.
Right,
Go
so
for full confidence that you're right.
yeah,
Just keep going.
the mini DRS.
Yeah.
McLaren were asked to change theirs because the gap was too big, right? And everyone was like, this is it. This is why they've been winning. Max is going to be right on them now. No. That is not why they've been winning. They've been winning.
Do you feel vindicated?
Yeah. I was like, it's not this little mini. I mean, maybe the mini DRS was great. I'm sure it was. But clearly it's the time and the effort the team have put into the car and the two brilliant drivers behind the wheel. It's just the perfect combo. And I feel very proud for both of them, particularly Oscar. Don't get me wrong, I love Lando. But, I mean, after last week, he had his little scuff on the grass, little, well, it wasn't a tumble, but
he drifted. He Tokyo drifted across.
He did.
It's like, save that for the next race. That's Suzuka. Yeah.
But he pulled it back this week, and he was my driver of the day last week, and probably my driver of the day this week, but we'll get back to that. He just did absolutely incredible, and he should be so proud of himself. He's so understated too. He's so cool. He's such a cool guy.
He is. He doesn't really show much, right? He doesn't really show many of his emotions, and even when he qualified well yesterday, he said he screamed into his helmet. We didn't hear that. He comes across as cool as a cucumber, and actually I think, he just doesn't really outwardly show those. But I think that means that it gives him it gives him that ability to focus. And I think he did do, it was a comeback really for him this race. And I think it was amazing. All the right calls were made, and he was pretty much out in front with no drama. I didn't really hear much from him. Lando, on the other hand, barely held on to P2 towards the end because of the brake issue that he was having. Practically no brakes at the end, and he was having to just come off the throttle. That's terrifying for a start to not have any brakes. But I think he did a good job to hold on to P2.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, he's had a couple of issues with his car, actually. Like, I know that sort of stuff happens. I'm sure it's not anything that's going to be common. But
Sabotage!
Let's not start that rumor.
Yeah, let's not.
But yeah, I mean, Lando, he's so good under pressure as well. He was putting pressure on George Russell for quite a lot of the race, managed to get in front of him, or he wasn't putting it on for quite a lot of the race, but he was putting pressure on George Russell, managed to get in front of him. But talking of George Russell,
Mr. Consistent, should we call him?
I think he deserves that title.
I agree. I know, again, we're only 2 races in, but I do think this might be a trend that we see. George is looking at that podium and he's always close. He's been able to get up there, and is the Mercedes a car that maybe Lewis might have wanted to stay behind for? Obviously, I know Lewis wanted to move anyway for his own reasons, but it does look like the Mercedes is more competitive this year. And yeah, George is doing a fantastic job of staying up there with the pack and, managing to wrangle a podium.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know Lewis's thoughts on Mercedes right now because, I'm not saying George was a bad driver last season. He wasn't, but he wasn't consistently up there at all. Yeah, he was in the table, obviously, but like P1, P2, P3 podium.
No, wasn't even really on the table for either of the Mercedes, right? And I think for Lewis, the time had come for many reasons, right? They wouldn't give him what he was looking for, and I think he just needed to do something different. It does seem reinvigorated, and maybe he's not gone into this season thinking I've got a chance. Maybe he is focusing on 2026. We'll never know. But yeah, I think George's got to be happy with that, and obviously Antonelli as well is doing a fantastic job of getting that car up the ranks as well. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised if we see those Mercedes up consistently throughout this season.
Yeah, I mean, Kimi Antonelli, he's been doing a really good job. I've been really,
Mm-hmm.
really impressed by him. And it's obviously a very powerful car. Like he's not gone into, sorry, but he hasn't gone into like a kick or anything, which are a
No,
little bit slower.
a little bit.
A little bit, just a
Yeah,
little bit.
just a little.
He's gone into like a really fast car on the grid, and I think he
Mm.
handles it really, really well. It's got to be a lot of pressure to be in that seat, but I also think perhaps with Lewis moving on from that team, it has given George Russell almost a little bit of been like reinvigorated again because
Mm.
he is now the senior in that team.
Yeah.
He is the one who is seen needs to be up there, and I mean he's definitely giving that to them for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he is kind of showcasing why it was worth them signing him.
Mm.
You know, initially I wasn't really sure, but I guess now that he's not under kind of the shadow
Of the
that is
seven
Lewis,
world
because
champions.
you're always going to be under the shadow of that. I think, you know, it gives him a really good chance, but I will be interested to see how he handles Kimi getting to grips with that car. And at a point where they're closer together, will he make the same calls that he did with Lewis? Like there were some scenarios where, you know, he kind of expected to be given
Mm.
some strategy calls and things like that. And I'm like, you're against a 7-time world champion. Time will come. Like he's clearly, obviously, we knew at the beginning of last season that he was leaving. It's not like that got leaked. So, you know, I should, for me, last season it was kind of like you're expected to be given stuff because you know he's leaving, and you're like to expect that from a 7 times world champion. Like he wouldn't have won that many times if that was how he was. But
Yeah.
I do want to say, obviously, today we'll talk about strategy and stuff. But obviously, Lewis today said to the team, let's swap places, give Charles a chance to try and catch George. And you know they attempted that. It didn't quite work out, but I think people like to paint Lewis as someone who struggles with someone in the team. And obviously there's been a lot of questions around how will he cope with Leclerc, and I think ultimately he's clever enough to know when to make a team call and when to make a selfish one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting time with George and Antonelli. They've got more to come, I think.
Yeah, I did want to talk to you about because obviously you've been watching the sport a lot longer than me, and you kind of understand the strategic side of it a bit
Mm-hmm.
better. So I know obviously that call was done by Lewis, but did you think there were any
Mm.
team calls that were probably not the right thing to do
Within Ferrari or just across the
across
grid?
the grid, across the grid?
Yeah, so I think obviously I think Ferrari messed up, but I mean, are we really surprised Ferrari's strategists could do with a bit of a kicking sometimes? And today they pitted Lewis when they probably shouldn't have, you know, thinking that they could climb a few places or at least catch up to George. And in the end, they ended up letting Max take over both of them. And obviously, I mentioned that Lewis said about switching with Leclerc, and they did. And then I think at the end, Leclerc gave that space back, which, you know, it's nice to see they're working together. I also think as well, the way they are both on those radios, they're in sync because, you know, sassy
They asked the
radios
sassy
are here to say.
queens.
I love it. I love to see people taking control. You know, you're talking to people who know what they want to do. They're in the car. They know what they want. I also do want to touch on Sonoda's radio when he asked for some more downforce on his car, and they said we don't want to do that. He said, "Well, I do," and I love to see it. It cracks you up when they're like that. But it's going back to your original question. VCarb, I think they made a mistake today. So they went for a two-stop, and it was a little bit like, come on, guys, why is no one else pitted with us? And it's because the tyres weren't dropping off, and they lost points, and I'm really gutted because they looked competitive.
Yeah.
Wanted them to be taking over that Red Bull just to really drive a point home. But yeah, I think they both drove phenomenally, if I could get that word out. But I think the strategy completely let them down today. You know, it's a risk that you take. They didn't know that other people weren't going to do it, but I'd have liked to have seen them stay out. Did you notice any strategy calls that you didn't necessarily agree with this race?
Not this race, to be honest. I mean, the race was a little bit. I mean, we got spoiled last week with the race being extremely exciting. I mean, one, it was the first race of the season. Two, the rain. It was three, all the rookies on the grid.
Yeah.
Like, that was very exciting. This week was it was an average race.
Quiet.
It was a quiet race.
In terms of other things that could have happened.
I'm not hoping people crash, obviously. But a little knock here and there. It's very exciting. You know, and that's what causes people to be able to nip into the spaces. Like, that's how the people climb the grid when people make mistakes. And I didn't see that there were too many mistakes on the grid, which is why it was a little bit more of a tame race. That's what I'll call it.
Yeah. I'd say the biggest drama was obviously, one, people not pitting when they should have. Alonso's brakes were on fire. I mean, standard, there's usually a car that does something similar throughout at least one or two of the races early on. And then I think the real biggest issue was Leclerc lost part of his wing that didn't even seem to impact him because he hit Lewis, which lucky there wasn't more damage, but didn't seem to lose any of his time. And then we had Doohan and Hadjar were battling it out, and obviously Doohan ended up with a 10-second penalty. I don't know if he ended up getting another one for another infringement that he had, but he forced Hadjar off wide on one of them, and they were scrapping towards the end quite heavily because Hadjar really wanted to get past him. But yeah, I think that was about as dramatic as it got on track.
On track.
But off track.
Should we cover?
Do you want to drop the news?
Yeah, let's cover. Obviously, the scores do not look like they did when the race ended because we had a couple of disqualifications. So we had both Ferraris disqualified.
I'm devastated, so you can laugh all you want, but I'm so upset.
Yeah.
It was awful to find that out.
Yeah, and it wasn't their fault either, which...
No.
Oh,
sucks so hard. They were already annoyed, had a bad call, couldn't make up the time, and then to get disqualified is kind of like, what was the point of even showing up? They might as well just stayed at home.
To be a fly in the wall, on the wall of that room afterwards. Because they're already quite sassy. Like, I can't imagine the conversations that will be going on. But if you missed it, to clarify, what happened was Lewis had... Now, bear with me 1 second, because, again, it's a little bit above my head. So there's a plank on the bottom of the car, and his was too thin.
Yeah,
right?
Didn't weigh enough.
It didn't weigh enough, and they said, "You're out, son.
Bye.
See you later." You were fourth, and now you got no points. Sorry. And then Leclerc, his car was also too light. It weighed in at 799 kg, and should have weighed in at 800 kg. It was 1 kg. I think. Yeah, 1 kg.
The margin isn't high, but obviously the rules are the rules.
The rules.
You know, and even as a Ferrari fan, I'd love to sit here and speculate and say that there's some conspiracy or some rubbish like that, but I genuinely, you know, we've seen it happen before. Vettel lost podium position. He won. He was like, not what he did win, but he was on the podium for one of his, and he didn't have enough fuel in his car at the end of the race, so he got disqualified. You know, it happens, but obviously, those two weren't the only two who were impacted.
They were not. So we also had Pierre Gasly, who was disqualified for a technical infringement regarding his car rear wing adjustments, which didn't meet the required specifications. So the only saving grace for him is that he wouldn't have scored any points anyway. So,
so
it's fine.
You know,
don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, you come back next time and try again. But yeah, I think it's always interesting when you get a disqualification, but when you get 3, you know, that just, it raises some questions of, you know, are they pushing the limit of how much the cars can weigh? Because I know they're heavier this season. You know, probably good for the drivers because they don't have to starve themselves so much. But, you know, I think there's a lot of the time that they're going to run the risk, and they won't be the only ones, but it is always interesting when 3 of them get caught out. But to have 2 of them in the same team, what are you doing?
Yeah,
what are you doing? Like, that's not good enough.
Yeah, again, like, I know I said it earlier, but a top tier team should not be making mistakes like that.
No.
Especially when you've taken on a top tier driver. Like,
I mean, let's not discredit Leclerc.
No, of course not.
Yeah, he's a good driver, and his time his time to be a championship winner. I do hope that happens. But yeah, I think it is a little bit embarrassing for Ferrari to do that to their drivers, for sure, especially someone who's very good at winning and knows what he's doing. And I think it's such a dampener as well from how well they did in the sprint to then go to that. Really... The only good thing is he doesn't get disqualified from the sprint, so he still got 8 points listed from that race. So I'll take that. It's better than, it's a consolation prize for a terrible weekend.
Yeah, it's pretty sour, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not good at all. But on to other news, because I think, that was, as we said, probably the biggest drama, plus the rumours that are going around of that Red Bull seat. But it was Albon's birthday. I feel like we should talk about it.
Happy birthday, Albon.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, and he did pretty well.
Yeah.
7.
Let's talk about it.
7. I know. I hope he blows out 7 candles today.
So cute. I'm so happy for him, though, to get 7th on your birthday. And also his, again, the radio on these races so far for this season, I hope they continue, because I could just sit and watch that and be entertained. He got asked to do something, or he was being given some information, and he was like, I know, I'm better than everyone, leave me alone, basically. And I just thought, do you know what, go off, it's your birthday, hun.
Yeah. Birthday king. Yeah. Love that for him. But yeah, I think Williams definitely want to watch this year. I'm very excited.
I know. I'm still waiting for something from Carlos. Obviously, with the Ferraris going out, he ended up with points, so that's great. But it shouldn't take people being disqualified.
No, I think, like you said, it's going to take Lewis a bit of time to get used to the car, and it's obviously going to take, I think it's actually probably more of a change for Carlos, because it is going to be a slower car, because they don't have as much funding, I'm guessing, as
No, you're correct.
The McLarens, the Red Bulls, the Ferraris. So I mean, they can only do so much. So yeah, it's going to be a big I think it's probably a bigger change for him than it is for Lewis. At least Lewis will be able to keep the pace and the speed that he got in the Mercedes. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, I'd agree with that assessment. For sure. I think Carlos probably is having a harder time, although Lewis is obviously going to have a harder time when it comes to the strategy, because where is it?
Well, I think more eyes are probably on Lewis as well. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, I love Sainz, but like, that was the biggest news of last year. So I think he's definitely got big boots to fill. And I think most people are rooting for him to get his 8th world championship. So he's definitely got more eyes on him than Carlos. Yeah,
and when you've been in the sport for as long as he has, I think it comes with the territory. But I'd love to see him win an 8th, but I'm looking forward to 2026 again. That Williams, I've got something that tells me, with the way they're talking about 2026, that they're going to be competitive, and I think that's going to be super interesting with Carlos in the seat. And I hope Albon's still there as well, because I think he's got a lot to show, and he's not really been given the chance to showcase it. He's talked about the fact that his times were quicker than most of the other previous Red Bull drivers that were second to Max. And I think if he has the car to prove it, he's, again, someone who keeps his head down. You really hear too much about Albon when he's on the track, and he puts in great drives that get great results even when the car's not up to scratch. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what comes about.
Yeah, I totally agree. Talking about legends, let's talk about some of the possible upcoming legends. So, the rookies. That was so cute.
They are. I love them.
If you could adopt one, which one would it be?
I have claimed Hadja since last week, where I was just so gutted for him, and the fact that he loves Lewis as well, just by default. I love him. But yeah, I feel like I've taken him under my wing, and I wanted to see him do well. So that's why I was extra gutted today with VCARB Strategy Call, because he was in the points, or at least potential to win points, and I know his time will come, and it is so early, and obviously he's had a bad start to the season. Most of the rookies did last week anyway, but yeah, I think he's the one that I'm taking. How about yourself?
I've got to take Mr. Behrman. Mr. Ollie Behrman, he was clean today. Like very clean. He did very well. Was very impressed with the overtakes he was getting.
Yeah.
Just yeah, what a guy. What a guy. In a Haas. So impressive.
Yeah. Do you know what he reminded me of? I was thinking of it today, is that not quite to the same extent and obviously not with the same barriers in place, but it was like 2021 Brazil, I think it was, when Lewis got disqualified or put to the back of the pack. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was an engine change or something happened where he basically got put to the back of the grid for sprint. And obviously then at that time you have to qualify still, and your sprint and stuff determined where you ended up for the actual race. And he punched out overtake after overtake, and he was doing it on the same corner, and I noticed that Behrman was doing the same. He was taking over on the same kind of corner.
Yeah.
He kind of found his flow with it and where it'd work best for him. And I thought, you know what, that gets me excited.
It's
because
such a mature.
he's thinking, he's thinking ahead of where some of the other drivers that we've seen when they've started out are thinking. You know, he was very much like, okay, well, I've done it once there, I know I can do it again, so that's my strategy. And yeah, I was really impressed, and I feel like he was robbed of driver of the day.
Yeah,
personally,
I do agree. I mean, he was. That is such a mature driving style, and the thing is, like, yes, a lot of the driving is about instinct and stuff, but like when you know that you're pretty much 99% sure you're going to get that overtake, you got to take it. And if you could do it again, why wouldn't you grab that opportunity? Like, it is about thinking ahead. Yes, you have to act in the moment, but of course, like, it's so much better to think ahead about what you're going to do. So I was very impressed with him for sure. He should have been driver of the day.
So I agree with that. I think, you know, he was really clean, and he didn't even try and push it too hard. And I think we've seen that with some of the rookies. Like, you can see them really trying to push the car to the limit where they lose control. And you know, they spin out a bit too heavy on the accelerator, but he gave it masterclass really, and kind of like bide your time, do it at the right point, be sensible about it, and you don't need to risk anything to climb up those places. And he went from P17 to P8, and if that's not impressive, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Who did get driver of the day, sorry?
It was Antonelli, and the theory is that it was to make up for last week, because obviously Oscar took the driver of the day. But I do feel like Behrman was completely robbed. He drove phenomenally, and you know, I also, some of the commentary was around the fact that it was probably some young girls who voted for him, which I hate that so much, because first of all, let's not sexualize the dude because he's just trying to drive, and second of all, let's not degrade the women that the only thing we're watching the race for and the only reason why we like things is because someone looks attractive. Like, it kind of shuts the door a little bit on, you know, women watching the sport. It always belittles us down to, we either fancy it or, you know, we hyperfixate on it and we're just some weird little fans. Like, let's not do that, people. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I agree. I mean, women can enjoy sports too. Like, maybe I don't enjoy football, but that doesn't mean, like, my next door neighbor, she loves football. Like, it's totally normal for women to enjoy sport as much as men. And the reason I enjoy F1 is I just find it that more exciting than other sports. Like, you wouldn't catch me watching cricket. Sorry. Too boring for me, but
too slow.
Too slow. I want the fast pace, and like I think what they're really doing great at the moment is the F1 Academy, right? So
yes,
I've seen.
I wanted to ask you if you caught the F1 Academy race.
I did. I watched the highlights because I would have watched the race, but I was away this weekend, so I've had to, you know, catch up on all of the races. But I was really impressed. I watched the race 1 and race 2, so they have 2 races, and those girls, they're impressive. They're so cool, and the cars are really cute as well. Like, they have the coolest designs on.
I love a good livery.
Right? So my kind of my driver of the day for these would be Chloe Chambers. So she fought, and she fought hard. So if you don't know much about F1 Academy, I believe she's an American driver. And she was a little bit like, she tried to overtake 3 times, but she didn't quite make it on the first 2. She was like hot on that tail, and it was a similar corner. She was like, because they obviously they're going around the same track, and is it the eye of the needle, is that what they were calling it? Is the
on
big
the track? Yeah, so it's like you're going around that bit where you would normally thread your,
and you either go really really close, or like obviously if you're overtaking you have to go out on the, and then you kind of almost pinch the other person in. She was so impressive on that track. She really made some massive headway, and she ended up finishing in 3rd, which she really deserved because she climbed spaces. I can't tell you where she started, but she overtook quite a lot, so I was really impressed with her. And then we also had Dorian Pin, I think is how you pronounce her name. So she came first. She was also very, very impressive. She, in the second race, she led for most of it. But I need to do a little bit more research into the F1 Academy, because I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if the race 1 is kind of like their sprint race, for example, and then they have race 2, because they had race 1 on the Saturday, and then they had race 2, which is I assume the full-on race on Sunday. So I'm going to do a bit more research into it this week, but I knew it was on this weekend and I couldn't miss it. They've been doing a lot of advertising on LinkedIn, which is mostly where when I'm at work, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's go look at what's going on there. But I haven't seen loads anywhere else, so I would like them to push that out a little bit more and just kind of make it a little bit more accessible. Like, I feel like obviously, you know, F1 is the biggest sport, but I see F1, I even see F2, but I don't see so much of the academy. So that would be nice, other than LinkedIn, but
I mean, that's not really the forum that you'd expect to go to find F1 Academy. Not. So, yeah, I'd agree. It needs more funding, needs more promotion. And I think the time will come, and the Netflix documentary, well, is it documentary reality show, will help boost that potentially, if they don't, you know, go the sexist route and make them all seem really catty. But then they do that to the male drivers. So, I mean, who knows at this point?
The thing is, tensions are high, right? So there was a crash in particular. I think it was Nina Gaderman and Tina Hussman, I think is how you say her name. So Tina Hussman collided with Nina, and Nina was doing very, very well. And Nina was like, she took me out. But I would be yelling that if I thought someone took me out. Like, I don't think that's necessarily bitchy. I just think it's, you know,
high adrenaline, high stakes. It's going to happen. And also in the heat of the moment, you can't assess the full situation, so you're going to make assumptions, and, you know, it comes out the way it comes out. But I definitely think we will delve more into the F1 Academy stuff, and obviously on some of the weekends where we don't have race days, maybe we can cover some more of that. So stay tuned, so that we can bring you some more F1 Academy updates. I know that I'm eager to get into that and help support the women on those races as well.
Yeah, 100%. And like what I found was really interesting is that they don't get DRS. So there's no DRS, but they were still using slipstreams, and it was very impressive. So yeah, we'll definitely need to cover that a little bit more on maybe one of the off weeks, so that we can do a little bit of research, make sure, you know, well, I need to make sure I understand exactly how it works, and then we can also be keeping track of the scores and seeing where everyone's landing.
Yep, sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to that. So back to this weekend. Is Max's podcast over? That's the question that I'm thinking.
I mean, he definitely missed the invite to the party.
He did. I know, obviously, he was in the room last week, but this week not so much. And I'm wondering, is it time for him to hand over the mantle? You know, is it going to be one of the McLaren drivers? Seems that way.
I mean, it's interesting because, like you said, he did podium last week, but you know, it's not the Max from last year, and definitely not the Max from the year before. So what's changed? I'd love to know.
Is it the car? Is it the man? Is it a bit of both? I mean, he's had a kid. One could ask the question of, does that weigh in? You know, there's always been that kind of conversation of, does having children change your perception? You know, Lewis, Alonso, they don't have kids. Some of the other drivers that have previously raced who had children said that, you know, they slow a half a second or a second a lap because it's that, if you go that little bit faster, you might not get home to your family. So I do wonder if that plays into it. Obviously, again, we'll never know. Max is a particularly strong driver, so it would be interesting to see if that has impacted him. But I do think there's something not right with the Red Bull. The fact that it only really, it's kind of in no man's land a little bit. Obviously, Max qualified pretty well, so that helped. But for most of that race, he was a little bit out on his own, and then all of a sudden he has less fuel in his car and he's hunting down P3.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked like he could have probably gone further if he had the speed behind him. But yeah, he was hunting that down. So, you know, what do you think it is? Do you think it's the car? Do you think it's him? Do you think it's a bit of both?
I mean, it's an interesting question. And the thing is, like, you look at the grid and they brought good cars this year. They really did. Like, everyone's really stepped it up. Well, most teams.
Let's not talk about steak.
Yeah, sorry guys. Most teams have really, really stepped it up, but I don't know if it would have been possible for all of them to step it up that much that closed that gap. So it can't be that the whole grid stepped it up to meet where Red Bull is. It feels like Red Bull may have knocked it down.
I know. How much do you think Adrian Newey not being there has played a part? Because I see he was the main developer on the car for a long time, and he's obviously a genius, and he's now moved on. But how much do you think that has played into a part in this car? Because he left partway through the season, so it's not like they had him the whole time they were potentially developing it.
I mean, it has to have played a part. Look where the car's landing. Like,
yeah,
Max had like what 20 seconds on most of the grid in 2 years ago. And now, yeah, like you say, he's
fighting for P3. Yeah,
it's a bit iffy that. Again, love to be a fly on the wall of those conversations because, like, Max, I don't think will be taking that very well at all. Because I watched him today. He didn't make mistakes. Like, he's not one to make mistakes. That's not the reason he's not high up in the grid. The reason is he hasn't got the speed behind him. And that I mean, it can be a driver's problem, but it's Max. It's not going to be a driver's problem, is it?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Unless you're right, and he is being more conscious, and he is taking into account that he has a family to get home to. I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see if they can improve the car, and then we'll know.
Exactly. It's hard to tell at this point because obviously the car is just not where it needs to be. So I think it's probably unfair to even try and make that kind of statement of he's had a family, so therefore he's dropped off. I don't think that's the case. I think, you know, the car is just not where it needs to be. He's still managing to find something within it, which is impressive. But again, it comes back to that. The car's clearly not where it needs to be. It's not P1 position at this point in time. And then you've got Lawson at the complete other end of the grid. And it's like are they either interested in trying to get as many points for the constructors, or again, they're prioritising their number one driver because they know he can score points. And I don't know how sustainable that is for this year. And obviously, there's been reasons behind why the Red Bull is fast. They put a lot more on the nose, so which means your back end has potential to, you know, really go from underneath you. And maybe that's why Lawson's fighting so much, and why all the other drivers that sit in that seat have struggled, because Max, as we know, somehow manages to find something in that. But yeah, I think they've got to find something if they want to keep him happy. Yeah, because he's locked in for a long time with them.
Yeah, it's going to be some hard conversations, I'm sure, between Max and his engineer and his whole team, because I'm pretty sure it's not him.
Yeah, I agree with that statement, right? I think as much as people would like to always argue, oh, it's just the car, it's not. It never has been. It's got to be both. Like, obviously you need a fast car, but you need a driver who can drive it as well. And, you know, Verstappen's proven time and time again that he is the driver for that car. Whatever they've done to it, however they've tailored it, suits him to a T. but you can say the same about some of the other people who have won. Like, obviously, Lewis Hamilton, like, yeah, he needed a good car, but there have been scenarios where he might not have been able to win, but he's managed to pull it out. Like, there's a couple of seasons ago when he finished a race on three wheels. He had a puncture, and Max was closing down the gap in second place behind him. And this was at Silverstone, actually. And yeah, he lost one tire to a puncture, and you can just see the wheel spinning, and he's losing time, and then he crosses that line, and he somehow managed to win a race on three wheels. So I definitely think it's the driver, it's the grit that comes behind it, and I think as much as all the drivers on the grid want to think that they're that guy, they're not. Those types of guys don't come around all that often, and I think I'm yet to see that in anyone else that looks like their potential for the front running. Don't really see it in the McLaren team. Don't really see it in the Mercedes team. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone steps up to the plate this year with that kind of opportunity on the table. Will they get a bit feisty?
Yeah.
I want to see it.
There's definitely more drama to come.
For sure. And obviously, we've now got a break for 2 weeks before the next race.
Yeah.
Obviously, Suzuka, Japan is coming up, which I'm very much looking forward to that race. But I think we should probably move on to driver of the day and predictions for Suzuka, what we think is going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you, obviously, you kind of covered it earlier, but your driver of the day today?
Well,
it can't be him every week.
No, I know. Sorry. Ollie Behrman, then. It's got to be Ollie.
Okay.
He obviously is a rookie, and he's just showing so much potential. His overtakes are well thought out. He's like, sorry, but he's in a Haas. Like, it's really impressive.
Crazy.
It's really impressive. So, really proud of him. And your driver of the day is?
I'm going to go with Behrman today.
Yeah.
Because he's the only driver who stood out for me. He did such an impressive drive, and I definitely feel like he was robbed of that kind of declaration. Maybe the fans will make it up to him next week and we'll always be 1 week behind for some reason. But yeah, he's showing potential future World Championship skills, and again, very early to be saying that, but I liked what I saw today. So, and again, he's in a Haas, so if he's doing it in that, imagine if he's in a faster car. I'd love to see what he could do.
Very impressive. And I guess we should probably make sure that we're posting something next week, so do tune in, because we will have something, even though there is not a race. We'll make sure we put something out there for you. We'll cover lots of bits and bobs. We'll pop on our Insta and threads, and also our TikTok, which is at 2 Girls 1 Podium. We'll make sure we pop all of that stuff on there, so you kind of know what maybe we might be talking about. If you're interested, come on in.
We can run a poll, see if there's certain things. I mean, I'd kind of love to cover some of the fashion side of it, because I think that's so much fun, and everyone seems to be having more fun with their fashion these days. So yeah, I think maybe we should cover that. We can talk about helmet designs. There's lots of stuff we can go over, so we'll put a poll up. And I think let's quickly cover predictions. So obviously we predicted this race. Both of us were slightly wrong, but do you want to remind people what you voted?
I might have been a little bit
closer. You were mostly right. I was mostly right.
Than you, because if we just recap, mine was Lando, Oscar, Max, and I wasn't too far out there. What was yours, Jazz?
It was Lando and Oscar.
And the last one?
Leclerc.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I was optimistic. I should set my standards lower.
Daydream believer over there.
It looked so good for them, and then obviously the sprint win. I had high hopes, but yeah, maybe I won't put a Ferrari up for Suzuka. What's your prediction then? Top 3 for Suzuka in 2 weeks' time?
I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm not gonna go both McLarens. I'm going to go one McLaren. I'm actually going to go Oscar. And I think George is going to get to second. And then Max.
Interesting. That's a really interesting prediction. I quite like that, actually. It's a bit spicy and tasty. I think it depends on the temperature of the track as well, because I think that's why Ferrari might fell off today since the sprint, because obviously the track wasn't as warm. But yeah, I think I'm going to go Lando, because I think Lando doesn't want to lose. I'm going to say, I don't want to copy you. I don't want to copy you. I'm going to say, screw it, Ocon. Who knows? He's in a house. He was in P5. It could happen.
Yeah.
I'm just spicing things up.
Although he was in P5, he wasn't technically in P5.
I know, but fine. Okay. Do you want me to just pick the same as you?
No, sorry. It's your prediction. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, now you've really ruined that for me. I can't go with it. It's embarrassing. Okay, I'm going to go Lando, Lewis. I don't care. Okay, Lando, this is what I hope happens.
This
Lando,
is why you're
Lewis,
losing the silly.
Bearman.
Madness, absolute madness. I mean,
you gotta have fun with it.
I mean, if it comes
I'm not
off...
losing my fantasy league. I didn't vote for two. I did put 2 drivers in my thing. I was too late. I forgot.
Sounds like
I was
you're losing in the
week.
fantasy league. I'm first now. It's me.
I gave you that win. Oh, look, I don't like these predictions because now everything that I believed in has gone out the window after today. Screw it. It's going to be, we're going to have Hulkenberg. We're going to have...
Fuck now.
I'm just going from the back of the grid.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? You never know.
We might have a red flag. Everyone else out at the 2 stakes and one other driver.
Yeah.
Actually, I'd be interested to know if anyone else has got any predictions. If you want to play along, it would be fun for you to, send us a message or reply on our Instagram or something like that with what you think the prediction's going to be for next race. But yeah, I'm clearly not very good at guessing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have anything that you want us to cover, please do just drop us a message. Our Insta DMs are always open. We also have TikTok and Threads. So if you have anything, let us know. But predictions would be cool because, we can cover that as well.
Yeah, and you can prove how silly mine are. Millie, don't say anything.
No comment.
You've ruined my flow, and then I got all shy about it. I just want everyone to win.
What's a winner?
Oh, I'm sad. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. Obviously, we'll be bringing you a new episode next week. So, as Millie said, do share anything that you'd like to see on that. Otherwise, we hope you have a good week. And here's to the downtime in between the races, and I'll be counting down the minutes.
Yeah, there may be a countdown on Insta too. Who knows?
Ooh.
All right, over and out, guys.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.